There is so much that goes into the coffee that you drink, even before your barista brews it. Today, I want to take you behind the scenes into one of the most important steps in that process, assessing and tasting green bean samples. So we buy from some of the world's best coffee producers who we've built long-term relationships. So they do have a pretty good idea of what we're after. In essence, we contract the volumes and the qualities that we're looking for. And before they put it into a shipping container, they send us a sample to approve. Assessing these samples is something that we scrutinize over pretty intensely with a full team of coffee tasters. Firstly, we're going to have a look at the visuals of the coffee. Then we're going to look at the aroma that you get from the green beans. We're also going to check the moisture content and water activity, and then have a look at the number of defects before, most importantly perhaps, the sample roasting and then the cupping. So we're going to start with the visual inspection. It should be of a consistent size, shape, and your traditional washed coffees will have a bluey green or a pale green color, depending on the origin. Some coffees with a different process might start to take on a slightly reddish color, and some other even more exotic coffees might start to take on this yellowish color as well. What I want to try to look out for is coffee as well that's kind of pale or discolored, especially if it's mottled. That might indicate a bit of age or issues with the processing, and we'll definitely look out for how those flavors translate in the cut. And the big red flags that we look out for are coffees like this, which are black, broken, damaged in any way. That comes in later when we're looking at defects and we're starting to number them. So after the visual inspection of the coffee, we're also going to be looking at the aroma of the green beans. Now, you're probably very familiar with the smell of roasted coffee, but green coffee should have a really distinct aroma as well. And when it's fresh, it should be sweet, clean, and even slightly herbal. If it's musty or sour, that's also a pretty big red flag. So the next step is moisture content and water activity. It's really important to get an accurate reading of exactly how much moisture is in the green beans. In my experience, I find coffee is at its best and most stable when the moisture content is between 9 and 11%. And we measure that using a Cynar moisture analyzer. This is the industry gold standard, and for us it's a really important measure of exactly what's happening in the coffee. I think below that, the coffee might be potentially old or brittle, and if it's higher than that moisture content, then potentially we're going to see the coffee change more over time or during shipping and storage. Next step, let's talk about defects. In professional grading, there is a system for assessing defects from the Specialty Coffee Association, and it separates defects into primary and secondary. Now, this is a really complex topic, and I'm sure we could and probably will do a whole video on it, but ultimately it specifies what is and isn't allowed in your green bean samples. We receive between 300 and 500 grams, and part of that process is we're going through and we're checking to make sure that there's very little and ideally none of any of these in the green bean samples that we're receiving. Final step in the process, and potentially the most important, is sample roasting and then tasting the coffee. So when we're sample roasting, we're aiming for a very light degree. We just want to detect the origin and variety characteristics. We're not looking for any interference from the roast. And then when we're cupping it, we're looking at the aroma of the grounds, we're looking at the sweetness, the clarity, the mouthfeel, the flavors, overall the balance, as well as the length and quality of the aftertaste. And we're able to put this together in a score which we can then share back with our suppliers. I think it's that constant communication, calibration, and celebration of the great coffees that we have with our suppliers, which helps them to really understand what it is that we're looking for and to make sure that everything that arrives here is exactly what we need it to be. Got any more questions, comments, or are you curious about any of this? Feel free to hit us up with a question in the comments below. Thanks for watching.